Hello. All right, welcome to the second episode of Hiraya Media's People's HR presents Bantay Boto, a live stream series on honest and clean elections. Wow, this is oh my gosh, I'm excited kasi yung guests natin today really are part of the youth and came from the different sides of the world. And so, before anything else, I'd like to thank the Hirai Media team for making this possible. My name is Christian Reyesonda. I am the creative director of Hiraya Media, and I am going to moderate for this conversation. There is a direct connection between good governance and the quality of life. The necessity of earning money for basic things like food, house, and clothes has become a challenge for normal Filipinos as we battle with employment issues that stem from government inefficiencies. At the heart of it are the younger folks, who make up 27% of the workforce population. As this election directly affects their livelihood, we sparked the conversation on how it changes the way the youth vote. Welcome to a conversation on the youth's vote and its impact and influence. So as of ngayon, I'm just gonna give the floor for our guests to introduce themselves, and let's start with the people in Manila muna. Attorney Colleen.
Grabe naman attorney ko. usually I tell my friends not to call me by my
Ay,
title.
sorry.
I'm still, pero okay.
Okay, so
Since
for
hindi
the
you had a client.
for the record,
so,
first time ko lang kasi yon. Like, the last time we talked, hindi ka pa lawyer noon, but now look at us. I'm literally talking to you on this live stream. You're gonna be part of our guest for this session. And I wanted to just call you that. Oh my god, I'm so
Thank
proud of you. Wow.
Thank you, Chan. So,
Yeah, go.
I'm Colleen Arcaina. So, my friends call me Colleen. I am here by training and profession. So I'd like to introduce myself in relation to my profession as a human rights advocate and lawyer. So I work for a human rights NGO based in Makati here in the Philippines called Center for International Law. So our clients include families of victims to the drug war in the in this administration's flagship project. So we represent those families, and we also engage all all ages of Filipinos in human rights training, paralegal training. So to better equip people of their rights under our laws and even international law. So yun. So I hope I hope to be able to also share what I know and also listen and learn from the different folks here on the live stream. And thank you so much, Chan, for inviting me. Kinakabahan din ako, pero let's see where where we can take this conversation.
Yep. It's a tie. Kinakabahan din ako. So, I feel like lahat tayo dito kinakabahan. Okay, thank you so much, Colleen. Now, Nina.
Ayan, magandang gabi sa inyong lahat, sa mga nanonood sa Manila, magandang gabi. Sa mga nanonood sa Amerika, magandang umaga. Ako po si Nina. may time zone difference talaga. Ako po si Nina at I represent the education sector as well as ang mga manlilikha at manunulat. I've been in the media industry for a couple of years now, but really I'm a staunch advocate for culture and education. Actually, kagaya ng sabi ni Attorney Colleen kanina, kinakabahan siya. So, dagdagan natin yung kaba niyo kasi kinakabahan din ako. pero kasi just to point out, there's this certain thing about being kabado. And being kabado means that we wanted really to pursue this conversation and talk about the impact of the youth in voting. Mahalagang pag-usapan ng pagboto kasi isang linggo na lang, boboto na tayo sa susunod na administrasyon ng Pilipinas. So, thank you very much for inviting me here.
Wow, thank you so much, Nina. Dyren.
Hello, Philippines, and hello, world. So, hi everyone. My name is Darren Arish Molina. I'm from Far East University. I'm a communication student at also isa rin po akong volunteer ng isang presidential candidate natin dito and a youth voter rin as well. So, ako rin, kinakabahan din po ako ngayon kasi first time ko lang po mag-guest sa mga ganitong klaseng panel discussion. So, ayun lang. As youth din, gusto ko rin naman i-share kung ano yung perspective ko in terms of voting kasi this is my first time voting sa presidential. So, malaking bagay po na i-share sa inyo about my view towards these upcoming elections.
Wow. Alam mo, dahil nung sinasabi mo yun, I looked at your background and I'm like, oh wow, nasa New York ka. Central Perk. Diba? Friends, reference.
French
Oh my gosh.
fans.
Anyway, though, speaking of overseas, speaking of New York, yung ka-time zone naman ng New York, all the way from Toronto, Canada, one of Hirai Media's contributors, Iana Mundo.
Hi guys! Good morning sa Pilipinas and happy Labor Day. Labor Day ngayon, di ba? And then, good evening sa mga nasa Pilipinas. Good morning sa amin. Sorry, naglalag pa yung utak ko kasi like nagising ako 30 minutes ago. So anyway, I'm a student, overseas student. I actually live here na sa Canada. I'm a student at the University of Toronto. I've been pursuing human geography degree. University of Toronto is not apolitical. But yeah, we have things to say too. In the Philippines, I've been to this university who claims that they're apolitical now. So, don't know about that. But anyway, nung nasa Pilipinas ako, I've been to many rallies. I was a student leader, a red tag student leader too. And that's where I met Kuya Christian sa FEU din kasi he was part of the theater guild and I would always attend. And so yeah, I represent students probably even in my age. Medyo matanda na ako pero estudyante pa rin. I think buong buhay ko magiging estudyante pa rin ako. So I like to read. I kind of like to write a little bit on my free days. Pero when I write, I just make sure that it wakes me up and I hope that other people wakes up as well. Thank you.
Wow. All right. Thank you, Yana. And then last but not the least, this guy is super talented. I met him through Kumu. I'ma let you introduce yourself, Jethro, all the way from Wisconsin.
Hello, ako si Jet, isang pintor and a human rights advocate specifically for the indigenous and farmers. And I am practicing my voice through painting. Makikita nyo dito sa paligid sa akin ngayon na puno-puno ng paintings ay base sa Noli Me Tangere series. And naniniwala ako na ang Noli Me Tangere ay patuloy pa rin nangyayari dahil sa kukulitan natin mga Pinoy na nagbubulag-bulagan pa rin.
Okay. Wow, thank you, Jethro. Jet, I'm gonna call you Jet. Sige. Okay, so that this is the conversation for today, for tonight's episode. Tonight's episode, pati ako nalilito na ako sa time zones, but we're gonna talk about the youth's vote today, and I wanna start with our first segment. This is the context segment where we kind of define what the youth is. So anyone, I'm gonna just throw this to the floor. What do you think is the youth, or who comprises the youth?
Siguro, simulan natin, no? I-set muna natin yung context. Sa isang article na nabasa ko lately, ang nakalagay doon, meron tayo ngayong 65 million voters, like total voters, registered voters to, no? So, ang sabi doon, 56% ang comprised nun ay ang youth. So, that means 37 million. So, 37 million ng edad 18 to 41 na mga citizens ng Philippines ay pwedeng bumoto. So parang kung iisipin natin, ang laki ng number, ang laki rin ng percentage na pwedeng iambag ng boto ng kabataan. But I think just to set it all, parang it's not in the magnitude kasi ang significance talaga nito ay ang role ng kabataan in terms of society. So parang sa course naman ng Philippine history, 'di ba? Makikita natin at alam natin kung ano ang inambag ng kabataan. Just to have a concrete example, during the first quarter storm, nung panahon ng Rehimeng Marcos, nandyan ang kabataan, ang nationalism was on the rise, and kung titignan natin dun sa akdang isinulat ni late Pete Lacaba na Days of Disquiet and Rage of the Night, parang makikita mo talaga doon na students and the youth really clamor for democracy and for freedom. So parang ito yung parang ito yung nangyayaring parang history repeats itself. So dapat meron tayo natutunan sa kasaysayan at ito yung konteksto at magnitude ng youth vote para sa akin.
Wow. Okay, so I just want to emphasize on, you said 67 million registered voters?
65.7 million. Yun yung that was the
65.7
recent
million
registered voters. So that 56% is the youth.
is the youth. So technically, just the youth's vote can literally win an election. Because we're talking about 57 out of the 100, and when you get all those 57, that chunk of the youth's vote, you can literally kayang papanalunin ito ang isang kandidato. Wow, I never imagined that we have 65.7 million voters. Registered voters. Wow. Okay.
I wanted to add,
Go.
Gen Z alone has 13 million voters. Millennials have like 23.9, which is like the majority, the big chunk of all the registered voters here and abroad.
Wow. Sorry, hindi bigla akong naglag kasi math. But anyway, hindi, I mean, just to think about the numbers, we're talking about like a chunk of a population. Wow, oh my gosh. Hindi ko siya ma-process ngayon kasi I mean, that's the answer, basically. That's the answer that we're looking for. Papaano mo papanalunin kung sino man yung gustong kandidato. It's just a youth's vote. It doesn't matter if, the people that is not part of that vote anymore. I mean, if we're talking just about numbers and winning the election, just the youth's vote is enough. Anyway, so now we dive deep to our conversation. The heart of this conversation, it's about leadership, influence, and community. And when we talk about the youth's vote, siguro ako as part of the millennial, and I feel like may Gen Z ba sa atin? Jethro, Gen Z ka ba? Dyron, Gen Z ka, no?
Opo.
Yana, Gen Z ka?
Yes.
Hindi ko na tinanong si Nina tsaka si Colleen kasi
Bakit
kabatch
naman
ko
hindi
sila.
ka nagtanong?
Kasi
Bakit mo
kabatch ko
naman
kayo.
ako?
Oo,
Oo
Gen Z. But yeah, oh wow, okay. So yung Gen Z, I just want to know about sige, since three of the people here are part of the Gen Z, and then three are part of the millennials. I want us to define our generation. And let's start with the sige, sa millennials muna tayo. Can you tell us something about the millennials, Colleen?
Ako, the millennial generation, I think there's usually I joke about this na yung millennial generation, we're left with so much like burden from like the older generations, and we're easily frustrated with that burden. Na parang we want to be ideal and we want to be passionate and we want to like be big dreamers, but at the same time, oh my god, we are confronted with so many realities na usually demand very practical solutions. So I think that's why we are a very depressed and frustrated generation. And siguro in terms of like leadership, what we are seeking for usually is, ako personally, like I seek for a leader that inspires me to help out, to reach out. Hindi ako masyadong fan, or not really like hindi ako masyadong believe sa mga leader na direct you what to do, but more so would invite you or would encourage you to follow a specific path that draws you in service to others. So parang ako yung hinahanap ko na leader as a millennial, na yung tutulong na mag-cultivate ng energy that I have, and maybe the talents, the skills, the passion that I have, and the dream that I have for the country, and for community. So because of that frustration and general depression of our generation, I feel like I want a leader that's kumbaga laging like may glimmer of hope kapag we interact with them, kapag they speak to us, kapag we see them in their actions, a true servant leader. So yun, that's for me, I guess. Ewan ko sa inyong mga millennials and Gen Z kung meron tayong ganong common common commonality. So yeah.
Sige, ako magsasalita mamaya for the Gen Z. Kasi as part of the Gen Z,
Grabe.
alam mo.
Biglang Gen Z ka sana.
Biglang Gen Z. Hindi, medyo alam mo yun, na reality check ako when you were telling na, yun nga, we are a depressed and a highly frustrated generation. We're doing literally everything that we can do. I don't know why. I think it's hardwired in us, or I feel like kasi lahat ng sa astrological birth chart natin. Di ba?
Generational trauma
Generation siya kasi, di ba, Jupiter is in what? Sagittarius or whatever. O, di ba? Nag-astrology na tayo. We go to that to that depth para lang ma-define, para maintindihan natin yung generation natin. So Nina, what can you say about the millennial generation?
Well, actually, I +1 dun sa sinabi ni Attorney Colleen, no? Kasi since tayo yung sumunod na generation older than the Gen Z, there's something of a pressure na kailangan, sinabi niya kanina, ideal tayo. Dapat tayo yung susundan. So parang ako, ang ginawa kong parang chart sa buhay ko is, kung may gagawin akong something, sana yung gagawin ko na yun ay makatrigger ng inspiration doon sa mas younger generation sa akin. Totoo yung sinasabi niya tungkol sa servant leader. Ako bilang isang millennial, ang hinahanap ko naman sa isang leader, empathic. Yung maiintindihan niya yung konteksto nung I think this would fall under the conversation that we have tonight, yung pagiging empathic at pag-intindi sa konteksto ng komunidad, ng society, ng mga tao na nasa pinakababang level or status ng pamumuhay. Pero alam mo yun yung hinahanap mo and this is something that you crave for because this is what you want for yourself. So parang ganon yung nagiging nagiging basehan.
Wow. Okay. Ako naman, as part of the millennial, ito na, this is the truth. Part po ako ng millennials. I feel like our generation, what's that word? We're really proactive. Na kasi we were able to see the gap nung generation. Ano yung mga, again, sabi nga ni Colleen kanina, ang daming parang naiwan sa atin and we never had the chance to run away from it. I don't know, maybe it's because of our qualities as a generation na we just went head on. Na parang, okay, if this is what you left for me, then might as well just make the most out of it. Or kung meron mang, alam mo yung deep hole, we would literally do anything we can, even if it's not within ourselves to do it. Parang ganun. And so, knowing the millennials, knowing a lot of the millennials, I think a big chunk of my personal network are the millennials. And then, alam mo yun, nakikita ko sa kanila na tuloy-tuloy pa rin. Like, wala. No stopping the millennials na kahit sabihin na natin na, yun nga, depressed, na frustrated, I feel like, alam mo yun, it's just our way of just verbalizing whatever we're feeling. But at the end of the day, alam mo yun, it's just gonna be another fire for us to just move. Okay, so ngayon naman gusto nating malaman kung ano naman ang Gen Z in their own perspective. So let's start with Dyren.
So, ayun, gaya po ni sinabi ni Miss Nina kanina na meron kaming ina-expect sa mga millennial or sa someone who is into the future, no? May nabasa rin po kasi yung article na sa Thinking with Google yata, na yung generation po namin yung pinaka-woke at pinaka-vocal in terms of different issue na nangyayari sa paligid namin. So, it's true naman, based on my own observation, na we expecting someone na mag-guide sa amin. Kasi nga, we're still navigating. And now na, mas malaki yung nananavigate namin compared sa mga nagiging society before. Gusto namin na yung generation namin na nanggaling dun sa malaking malaking community, na meron kaming ayos na nilo-look forward. Ganun. So that's basically how we vocalize through different mediums, through different social media, ganun. Mas sinasabi sa amin na reklamo ganun, mga Gen Z sa social media. Pero what we wanted is we want someone or mayroon na kami look forward sa mga mas matanda sa amin or sabihin natin sa inyong mga millennials.
Okay, that's nice to know. Not every day can we talk to a Gen Z that talks about their generation. And so, this is a full circle moment to sa akin kasi I'm not that exposed to the Gen Z. Kasi again, in my immediate network, puro millennials or like the upper mga boomers and stuff. But not much Gen Z. But that's nice to know. And I think bago ko tawagin si Yana and si Jet, I think yung pagiging woke ng Gen Z, it's more on and when we look at this communication theory, it's called the diffusion of innovation of technology. 'Di ba? Ang millennials kasi ang nagsimula na maging digital native. And so the succeeding generations would then what do you call this? Follow whatever they see. Kasi kung nasa digital ka na and that's the space and the sphere where most people function at the moment, yung nakikita nilang very active doon, which is the millennials, yung nakagets talaga una ng social media, they would take cues. And I think I can safely say this kasi mareklamo din kami sa social media. Lahat ng millennials, very vocal kami. And I think that is a quality that the Gen Z has developed through the years, being exposed to social media. Well, the creators are millennials, so baka yun yung naging naging start ng pagiging woke ng Gen Z. And I'm not against that. I am all for it. Use media and entertainment or media per se to vocalize, to verbalize, whatever, to speak out. Ang gandang point nun. Let's hear about you, Yana. What can you say about your generation?
Debate ba to? Sino mas magaling?
Sino sa galing i-end ko tong broadcast?
So Gen Z, I agree with you actually. I agree with you, and I agree with you that Gen Z and millennials are both woke, and how millennials started being the digital natives. But for Gen Z like us, we were born into it because you started it as millennials. So in terms of being woke and asking a lot of questions, I know millennials ask a lot of questions, and then they answer it through experiences. But us, we were lucky because your experience provided us with that information that we can access with just a click of a button. So we have all this information. Now we just click and then we have it right away. So there's no excuse for us there's no excuse for us to just para baliwalain lang yung mga information na yun, because you guys experienced it before. You guys experienced it before, and then now we get to see it and we get to compare it with our experiences as well. So I think that's what differentiates us. You millennials, you already set the stage, and it's just for us to learn from it. I guess I think that's how I'm gonna put it. So yeah, for Gen Z, we ask a lot of questions and then we just get the answers right away, I guess. And then I think this elections is important because we have all this information, and what are we gonna do about it? We have everything already. So I think it's on us to make our marks just like what you did before. So thank you, millennials.
Bakit parang suddenly na-feel ko sobrang tanda ko naman na?
Oo nga. Parang hindi
Parang
naman yun,
pinag-uusapan na natin ang legacy dito.
hindi naman yun yung point ko. Parang mas lalong nadiin yung age natin. Wait, sige. For context, how old are you, Yana?
24. Ako ata yung nasa pinaka-start ng Gen Z.
Gen Z 24. Dairen, how old are you?
22 po. Magta-23
22.
this year.
Colleen, wag na tayo, hayaan na natin sila.
Hindi. Nasa 20s pa ako.
Nasa
Pasok pa ako.
20s.
27 ako, 27.
Pasok pa naman tayo sa kalendaryo.
Pasok
Hindi
pa,
pa
pasok
tayo over. Oo, pasok pa sa bingo. Sa letrang I. Oo.
Welcoming
Anyway.
naman kami guys sa Gen Z. Kung gusto niyo lumipat.
Magpapapalit ako ng year of birth.
Oo nga eh.
Di ba bakit natin ipapapalit yung pangalan natin kung pwede yung year of birth?
Diba?
O kaya yung place of birth para automatic citizenship kung saan man. Hay nako, the imaginations that we have na it reflects the struggles we have as a community. Anyway, last Jet, what can you say about the Gen Zs?
So, kung Gen Z ka, or ikaw yung isa sa mga pinakamatanda sa Gen Z, panigurado, ayun si ate, nararanasan na namin ang quarter life crisis. And kay kuya, mararanasan mo din to kapag nasa 25 ka na. And I talked to Kuya Christian about it then. Isa sa mga perks kung kailangan maranasan mo to, hindi mo alam kung ano ba ang tamang tinatahak mo. Kasi nag-worry ka. Well, paano yung retirement ko kapag nagsimula ako magtrabaho at the age of 27 or 28? So kaming mga Gen Z, mahilig kami mag-research. And hindi lang kami nag-rely sa, alam mo, napansin ko lang, sa lahat ng magkakapatid, ako kasi yung bunso eh. Ako yung pinaka-rebelde. Inisip ko lagi, okay, maraming naranasan ang mga magulang ko. Boomers kasi yung mga magulang ko. And hindi pa raw nakikinig sa kanila. Nag-drop out pa rin ako ng engineering noong senior year ko sa University of Green Bay and some classes sa MSOE. And sinabi ko, no, magpa-fine arts ako. Sa tingin ko mag-work to. And I'm still doing a lot of research pagdating sa kasi nagsimula ako sa advocacy ko. Noong 2017. And that's how powerful social media is. And I'm still using that perk kahit ang daming misinformation dyan. I'm sure naman itong generation ko, hopeful pa rin ako na marunong kaming tumingin sa tamang sources.
Wow.
Ayan.
Wow. Okay. That's always the importance of it. Kasi we heavily talked about in the last 3 minutes how digital has evolved, how social media has evolved. And invite ko lang kayo May 7. We're gonna talk about politics and campaigning on digital. So we're gonna unearth PR strategies of politicians, of campaign managers and stuff. And so para mabilis na, para ma-thorough nating ma-understand yung yung presence ng digital media. Anyway, so napag-usapan natin in the past 3 minutes yung digital media and how easily accessible information is, no? And so ngayon, I just want to circle back on sige, bago natin ituloy ito, circle back on leadership. What are the qualities of that you look for in a leader? Yun muna. And then we go to influence after. Anyone? What are the qualities that the youth is looking for in the leader?
Ako muna ba?
Sige, and I think you can answer this in general as part of the youth and not like as a Gen Z or a millennial. So just part of the youth.
Ang binoto ko kasi, nauna na kasi kaming bumoto dito sa US and kasi kailangan yung ballot namin papunta ng Chicago by May 9th. Ang gusto ko sa kandidato, may pangako sa plano, at doon sa plano, may practicality dun sa ginagawa niya at may nagawa na. At syempre, itong kandidatong to ay nagkaroon ng anak na millennial and nasa sa Gen Z din. Marunong din siya makinig sa kabataan dahil yun ang ikabubuti ng mga kabataan na katulad ko at sa mga magiging anak ko. Yun lang.
Okay. Nice. Anyone? What are you looking for? What qualities are you looking for a leader?
Ako kanina parang sinabi ko na kung ano yung hinahanap ko sa isang leader. Parang importante sa akin, empathic talaga. Kahit naman hindi sa leader, kahit sa atin na bumoboto, mahalaga na naiintindihan natin yung mga nasa komunidad, yung mga nasa paligid natin, yung mga tao sa paligid natin. And as part of the education sector, gusto ko rin sanang i-raise itong certain trait na gusto ko sa isang leader. Ang gusto ko, isang education president. Yung kaya niyang baguhin ang diskurso, ang usapan, at kahit yung education system. Kasi mahalaga yun eh. Mahalagang pag-usapan ng education ngayon at pagkatapos ng eleksyon. So, isa rin sa mga hinahanap natin, kailangan data-driven. Kanina sinabi ko, context-based. Kasi this is how we tailor-fit solutions para sa edukasyon at para sa mga programa at plataforma na gagawin ng presidenteng iboboto natin. At kahit ng mga susunod pang kandidato.
Well, sige. Connect lang ako dyan sa sinabi mong gusto natin ng empathic leader. Kasi
Right.
ako naman, as a communications graduate, that is actually my bare minimum. My bare criteria for a candidate, kailangan marinig kong magsalita ito. Kasi there's such thing as genuine communication and there's such thing as a rehearsed communication.
Right.
And kapag, alam mo yun, first time mong marinig or first time mong ma-experience itong kandidato na to na nagsasalita, medyo tricky siya na ma-identify. But then in the dawn and age of digital media where everything is recorded, pre-recorded, live stream, lahat nakapost, merong TikTok, merong Twitter, makikita mo yung refinement ng pagsasalita. Ano pa yan eh, isa pang experiment na ginagawa ko. Again, this is my bare minimum yung hinahanap ko sa leader. Na kapag yung technical aspect of media, say for example, sa TikTok, di ba, pinatungan mo siya ng background music. Magkakaroon kasi ng flow, parang meron kang feel na something na naiiba. Parang gano'n.
Right.
So lahat yan, pinapakinggan ko, even yung mga debate, mga snippets ng debate, ng campaign election, ng whatever. And then makikita mo talaga kung sino yung totoo at sino yung rehearsed. And I'm not saying na, alam mo yun, baka nga weakness niya ang communication. Oh my God, you're gonna run for the most powerful position in the country. Communication should be something that you're excellent with. Kasi that entails talking to different stakeholders. Hindi lang naman lahat written, hindi lang naman lahat meron kang presidential spokesperson. What if you meet with the leaders of the neighboring nations, di ba? So again, I think that's my bare minimum. That's the quality of the leader that I am looking for initially. Kailangan yung excellence in communicating. Not even eloquence, not even that creative aspect of it. It's just plain speaking. Kasi diba, communication is the human connection, and what better way for you to communicate with me as a citizen, as a human being, than by just talking. If I feel you, if I feel whatever you're saying, then I'm gonna consider you for whatever to vote. So yun, bare minimum. Yun pa lang yung filtering ko. Kapag meron ng, ang dami na, like ligwak na agad yung 5 sa akin. So, sabi ko, okay, at least ito, okay ito medyo okay. Tapos ito magaling. So parang ganun siya. Tapos doon na ako papasok sa plataforma, tapos sa projects, tapos may nagawa ka na ba? ayun, yun lang. That's my 2 cents. How about the other people?
Yeah.
Anong hinahanap nyo? What are the
Actually,
qualities?
Chan, that reminds me yung sabi mo na um excellent communicator siya. Siguro one of the ways to show that is actually ako gusto ko yung bukod dun sa nabanggit ko kanina na dapat servant leader, dapat leading by example essentially. Pero yung siguro yung related to what you said, ako gusto ko yung matapang at nagpapakita. A leader that shows up. Who shows up? Yun yung akin. If you cannot show up, di ba, parang, paano
Sino
yun?
kaya yun?
Di ba? Sino kaya yung hindi
Hindi
nagpapakita?
ko rin alam eh. Wala akong
Hindi ko
idea
alam,
kung
hindi ko
yan.
sure, hindi ko sure.
Kasi
Pero
alam mo
ako,
yun,
di ba?
oo, kasi isipin mo lahat tayo may mga ginagawa sa buhay. But now, we have a conversation about the youth's vote. Nagpakita tayo.
Right.
Kinakabahan tayong lahat, pero
Pero nagpakita
tayo.
ako.
Di ba?
Pero
Nagpakita tayo, di ba?
I mean, yeah, that's I think that's also one of the very ang hirap kasi sobrang baba ng bar natin ngayon after like an administration of grabe, like sobrang baba ng bar natin. Pero I think it speaks as to how kailangan natin mag-restore ng trust sa gobyerno. And one of the very first ways to do that is to have a leader who shows up and is actually transparent about the ins and outs of governance, 'di ba? Kasi ano ba 'yan? Pera natin 'to eh. 'Di ba? Pera, taxes natin 'yan, funds natin 'yan. So, there I hate to pull this out, like it's under constitution, a public office is a public trust. So, kumbaga, yun pa lang parang trust is a big word and the people only gives that to tayo yung yun, kaya dahil 'di ba youth vote, tayo yung nag-elect, tayo nagpuput ng trust and we don't owe anybody that trust but tayo yung nagbibigay nun as a people and I think deserve natin na ibigay natin yun to somebody who's brave and who's transparent. So yun siguro.
Okay. Anyone else?
Wait lang, Chan. I'd like to add
sige,
lang
go.
din, no?
Go.
Dahil sinabi ni Attorney Colleen kanina na kailangan matapang, gusto niya na matapang na leader. We all want a leader na matapang. And dun sa isang article na nabasa ko lately, yung youth, ang gusto nila may 3 silang categories or qualities na hinahanap sa isang leader. Una, strong. Pangalawa, honest. At pangatlo, intelligent. So gusto ko lang din marinig from our Gen Z, ito rin ba yung same trait na hinahanap nyo? Or meron pang additional traits? Kasi ito yung lumabas doon sa ginawang study. But may mga additional traits pa ba kayo na hinahanap? Bigla naging moderator.
Oo nga eh. Alam mo, I can speak as part of the Gen Z. Ako pala yung nag-guess. Oy, pero I like that. I like that. 'Di ba? Nagpapakita at ready. 'Di ba? Ready. Oh my gosh. Sana lahat nagpapakita tapos ready.
Go Gen Z, go
Oo,
Gen Z.
Go Gen Z.
yung sinabi ni Ate Nina na honest, yes, hinanap ko rin po kasi siya sa yung transparency po kasi yun. And as future media practitioner at graduate po kami naman po yung magbabayad ng taxes. We wanted na yung may elect this upcoming election is marunong humandle ng pera at alam namin kung napupunta yung perang ibibigay namin. Lalo na, syempre mag-stepping stone po yun. Hindi naman po agad nasa taas kami pag nag-work. We wanted na kahit yung hindi naman po ganun kalaki agad yung sahod namin. Nasa maayos na kamay naman po siya. So, ganun.
Wow.
I wanna add to. After you.
Galing nun ah. Hindi. Sasabihin ko lang na parang ang sarap marinig nun from a Gen Z, pero ang sakit din niyang marinig. Kasi we're talking about implications. We're not talking about what's gonna happen. It's the effect of what is happening. And I'm like, if only we can, magically deal with the trillions of dollars of debt that we have right now. But, well, that's gonna be part of your existential crisis, Darren. Thinking about
ready naman po.
Ready na. Hi. Siguro
Parang
isa pa
sinabi
to.
mo lang, well, sorry, but share.
Well, sorry, oo. Yan yung shared experience ng millennial at Gen Z kasi whatever we do That's gonna be our future. And I think this is a good thing kasi alam mo yun, kahit okay, sabihin na natin na merong ganyan kalaking utang, pero we're kind of aware of it, and what's gonna stop us from finding a solution? Sipin mo Gen Z at millennial nag-combine. Parehas na overthinkers, overachievers, over-researchers, lahat merong data, lahat fact-checking. I'm actually excited for that future. No, when the Gen Zs and the millennials and even the generations na susunod, I mean we have the torch right now. No, we just keep the fire burning for our communities, for our people. Okay, Yana.
I want to add to what Nina said before na what they're looking for a leader is empathic. I remember this quote from i-search nyo na lang kung kanina siya galing na dapat ang leader dapat ang leader daw matino, mahusay, tsaka may puso. So pinaka-importante yung may puso sa lahat, I guess. Kasi parang every elections naman laging may nagkakampanya na, oh, we're giving you the stars after this. Laging ganon. Parang ang taas lagi ng pangako nyo, pero you always give us less nung pagka nasa pwesto na kayo. So, gusto ko rin i-add na yung criteria naman naming Gen Z is like bare minimum. Bare minimum din kasi I think I speak for the most of the Philippines na there's no standard at all. Sobrang baba ng standard for the past elections. So, every elections, Filipinos are choosing different candidates kasi parang walang bar to reach, something like that. Parang we don't have a national concept of what it's like to be governed well kasi we live the life being used to leaders who always gives us less. So, for example, let's go way, way back. For example, they elected ERAP. ERAP para sa mahirap. So parang his winning piece is like to touch the masses. And then nung nalaman na may cases against him, Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo ran again. So she was VP before, and then she replaced ERAP, and then she ran again for another election. She's an economist who actually represents the upper hierarchy. Let's say that. So yeah, she's economist and elite. And then nung nalaman na may corrupt cases, we look back to history and like people voted for based on imagination. What if we elected another Aquino again? So marami pa rin hindi convinced about him. So 2016, my first time voting, 2016, Duterte. Iron-fisted, bad mouth, knows how to cuss, knows how to speak the language of the masses. And now, we're still not contented. So, it's on us who to decide for. So, I guess that's what we look for a leader. We always look for the bare minimum every elections because there's always such a low bar to reach. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That is actually striking. Na come to think of it, the bar is really low. Na I mean, I remember one time seeing like a post on what do you call this? On Facebook, yung sa Canada, Yana, the cabinet. Hindi ko alam kung Canada 'yon, yung lahat ng
Inclusive.
very inclusive siya. So, yung parang sa science and technology, the secretary was an astronaut. So, yung ganun na parang, what if that happens in the Philippines where the people in the Senate or in the executive branch or even in the legislative and the judiciary are all has a background in law. Diba? Para, yung gano'n. Tapos sa education, sana naging professor or naging teacher. Tapos sa communication, sana marunong makipag-usap. Yung mga gano'n lang, no? Hindi yung, ang bare minimum kasi natin, bare minimum pa rin na stipulated sa constitution. 'Di ba? Basta na-satisfy mo ang requirements na okay, within this age range, you are natural born Filipino citizen or stuff like that. I'm not so sure. Oh my god, kinabahan ako, may lawyer nga pala dito. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yun lang yung nagiging parang requirements nga natin, no? Kapag may tatakbo, basta na-satisfy mo yung requirements na yan, you are eligible to run for the presidency. And I think that has to change soon, no? Kahit man lang at least 3 bills na authored, yung mga kahit yung ganun lang para alam natin na meron kang background in lawmaking, 'di ba? Or something like that. We could only hope for the better. Well,
I'm
Pero
actually
hindi na.
hopeful.
Sige. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So, actually to add to that, tama 'yon na hindi kailangan na may specialization or graduate ka under the constitution kasi the idea is everybody has access to like a public office, a public position kasi the idea is, 'di ba, kung sino yung may kapasidad, whether or not may pinag-aralan ka, may access ka sa pag-aral or wala, pwede kang maglingkod. So parang yun yung idea. I guess what we can do is talaga, kaya important yung youth kasi I think it starts there na pag na-form natin yung youth na gusto kong maglingkod, gusto kong mag-participate in nation building, regardless of nakatapos, kung may experience sa ganito, kung saang sektor sila dinadala or tinatawag, I think pwede silang maglingkod in those sectors or in those aspects of nation building. So, I think it's important na kahit hindi natin baguhin yung batas, we start from the youth na we inspire them to be leaders, not just in leaders of the country. So I think yun yung important din na work on our end as medyo elder youth na we help shape the minds and yung hearts, shape the minds and hearts of those next in line.
mm-mm. Ninya?
Actually, sinasabi ko kanina, I'm hopeful kasi sa takbo ng kampanya, sa takbo ng participation ng youth ngayon, kahit hindi ng youth ng lahat ng botante in general, nagiging mas critical na tayo kasi may election, may period ng election kung saan sumayaw lang yung isang kandidato, nakuha na niya tayo. 'Di ba? Alam mo yun, yung sumayaw ka ng isang sikat na novelty song. Nakuha na niyo yung boto mo. You talked about kanina candidates who are speaking the same languages of the masses. Totoo yun. Kasi the candidates would also find yung parang ano ba yung certain relevance ng gusto kong iboto sa akin. Pareho ba kami ng values at the same time? Pero nakaka-frustrate din na parang kung nakita ka sa TV, kagaya ng parang nakukuha niya yung boto kasi nakita ko sa TV, sikat ako. Yung ganun. Hindi natin isinaalang-alang before yung mga qualities na kailangan na hinahanap natin kagaya na napag-usapan natin ngayong gabi. But I'm hopeful. Ito yung election na hopeful talaga ako kasi collectively as Gen Zs, as millennial, meron tayong strength dun sa numbers na yun. We are actively participating and we have this ability really to mobilize through social media and beyond. So, yun.
Okay, sige. Does anyone want to add? Wala naman Okay, sige. So, we were able to define our generation. Number 2, we were able to say all the qualities that we're looking for in a leader. And then, number 3, quite frankly, we were able to kinda in hindsight na identify natin yung mga pressing problems. It's not as deep but just the superficial of it. So my question now, and this is for the second part of the conversation, it's about influence. Now we were able to identify all these things. what are we doing now? As you know, as a part of Gen Zs or millennials or the education sector or the art sector, the entertainment media, legal sector, even the science, um how are we using our influences? What are you using? Like, what are you doing to influence your network or your colleagues, your peers, to think the same way? If not, then just do the right thing. How are you influencing the people around you? Anyone?
Sino ako?
Go
Ako ba
lang, go.
ulit?
Sige.
Okay, so ano, again, ako yung isang pintor para sa mga magsasaka at mga katutubo. Um, ah, hindi ako tulad yun na parang meron akong malaki pang impact. Papunta pa lang ako doon. So ako yung nagpipinta nga ng Noli Me Tangere dahil naniniwala ako na ito ay relevant pa rin to this day. At bilang Noli Me Tangere as Philippine literature na laging ino-honor nung high school tayo. Yun nga lang kasi ang problema sa edukasyon natin eh. Iniisip lang ng mga estudyante nun, and included ako dito kasi nag-high school ako sa Pilipinas, na ipasa lang yung subject na yun pero hindi ko nalunok ang mensahe. Kaya, ayun. So, ginagamit ko ang mga aking mga ginagawa para mag-spread ng awareness. Ang pinakamalaking na win over ko kasi dito, hindi yung mga taong nakakausap ko dito sa US na non-voters, but more like mga kapatid ko. Kung magsisimula ka sa labas, dapat magsimula ka muna sa pamilya mo. Hindi naman sila necessarily na parang Marcos apologies, but more like hindi sila lumaking magkaroon ng pake sa politika at sa nangyayari sa Pilipinas. And I convinced them in a way na magkapake ka kahit nasa Amerika ka na. Identity mo to. At ang bumubuhay sa pagkatao mo. And ayun, natuwa naman ako na isa sa mga kapatid ko na convince ko na bumoto.
Wow.
Ayun.
Wow. Congratulations on that. That's tama yun. Siguro, okay, one thing about our generation, and I think ito, the youth, is when we talk about influence, we always talk about followers. Ilan na followers mo sa ganito? Ilan ang ano ng brand? Saan ka na-go work? Anong credentials mo and stuff like that. But the thing about influence is it's not measured. I mean, you can't it should not be measured by quantity, no? It should be measured by the practice of that. So kapag, okay, kunyari, na-influence ko yung ikaw, Jet, na-influence mo yung kapatid mo, that's already influence. You are an influencer because you made someone think the other way or see another perspective that he or she has not been seeing. And I think that's something that we need to debunk. So please follow us on on socials at Media Hiraya here on Facebook, at Hiraya_media on
Sabay ganun,
Instagram and Twitter.
Galing ng
Because,
transition
Galing.
oh my gosh, pinractice ko yun. Pero hindi, that's really what I'm talking about. Kasi sa influence, kasi, okay, I'd be transparent. We don't have that much followers, but within the Hiraya network, diba, all of you are have been part of my network. We, two of you, Nina and Jet, we've done a campaign. We're doing a campaign with your artworks. Colleen, we were Chalk Bright Young Manila, and then Iana, we were working with Hiraya, and before that we were in FEU Politics, and then Dairen, our Hiraya media intern. So we wanted that. We want to influence what we do, what we wanted to do, what we want to tell the world, what stories we want to tell. Na kahit hindi kami makakuha dito ng viral content, like hundreds of thousands of views, what we want is the truth. Ito yung influence namin. We're having this live stream just to talk about this. This is not too formal. This is just casual, but in this kind of a format, we kind of unearth it. It's raw, no? It's not as rehearsed as some whatever online. And I think yun lang, gusto ko lang sabihin sa'yo na Jet, it doesn't matter if you have like millions of followers. One person a day or one person a month na ma-influence mo to do good, to believe whatever you believe in, to share a same value or an experience, that is influence enough. And imagine the exponential growth kapag lahat may isa na tao. Di ba ganun naman yung the philosophy of like di ko alam kung tawag sa philosophy na yun, basta philosophy yun. Pero yun, okay, so how about the other one, the other people
Ako kuya,
influence? Okay, sige, Dairen.
Gaya po ni Kuya Jet, no, na-influence ko rin po yung kapatid ko kahit hindi po siya botante, pero sumusuporta rin po siya sa isang candidate dito sa Philippines. And as I mentioned before, volunteer rin po ako sa isang presidential candidate dito sa lugar namin. And pag nagkaroon ng time, I wanted to do house to house kasi naniniwala po ako na yung isang influence, one mental influence is actually yung tinatawag natin na tao sa tao. So basically, house to house ka, kausapin mo, be a good influence na nagka-reflect na sa iboboto mo. So parang ganun. It is a very basic way of influencing. Di mo kailangan ng technology, di mo kailangan ng kuryente ng internet. Harapin mo yung i-influence mo. And if that works, that's a big thing para sa pagbabago. Ganun ka.
Keyword harapin. Humarap tayo sa tao. Diba? Shots fired. Next. Okay, Yana, how are you using your influence? How do you influence your network?
I think I influence my network through what we know. Kasi sabi nga natin, parang our generation is more this generation, millennials, boomers, this millennium, I guess, is more interconnected than ever. So geography major ako, sususugan ko lang. Ipagyayabang ko lang na geography major ako. Kasi minsan people find it weird. But it is like connected to
Sobrang
so many
cool
things.
kaya.
Sobrang cool
Cool kaya.
geography. What is the capital of... sobrang tone deaf nung tanong. But anyway, actually, Yana, before you say something, gusto ko lang i-anchor itong question na to. Kasi I've read one of the articles that you wrote for Hiraya. I don't know if we're allowed to say the title, but ikaw na lang magsabi ng title, and then kasi doon you shared your life story, how your family is from the north and all of you are literally supporting the person from the north. So how did were you able to influence them to think otherwise, or alam mo yun, 1 versus 100 ka pa rin?
Thankfully, hindi naman So, yeah. Sabihin ko yung title. Bilang nandito naman, takot naman ako kanina na nandito ako. Yung title po ay Marcos pa rin.
Marcos pa rin. So
yeah.
what
Marcos
is
pa rin.
what is that about?
Marcos pa rin is my story of being an apologist. For context lang, I registered noong 2016. First time voter, just turned 18. I registered just to vote for Bongbong Marcos. So, ganun siya kalala. As in, I'm a super fan. He would send me greeting cards during Christmas, but that's it. Yeah, during the holidays. Alam mo yung greeting cards na hindi naman siya personally written, pero kilig na kilig ka. Alam mo yung kinuha lang yung quote sa internet, tapos nilagay sa card, pinadala sa bahay niyo. Ganun siya. So, Marcos pa rin is, it's kind of like an awakening. Like, why do you believe something even if the facts are in front of you already? So, sinasabi ko nga lagi, parang I voted for Marcos in 2016. I was an apologist. Parang, it's hard to accept the truth, pero it's harder to find someone new who you will believe in the future. So I think that's like the point of an awakening. You have all this information. Kanina ko pa sinasabi, you have all this information. What are you gonna do with it? Do you just like let it swallow you and parang iwan mo na lang ba siya sa likod mo, or do you let it influence you and your vote for the
Uh-uh.
future. So I guess that's what the article is all about.
Yana, quick question. Quick question. So, when was the When was the last time that you talked to your family? Because you're with your family in Canada, right?
Yeah.
And then this is the same family that supports Marcos.
Yeah,
Tama?
kasi yung mom ko kasi ano siya from Ilocos Norte. So, it's kind of given na kung from Ilocos Norte ka, you're really parang makamargas ka talaga. Kasi
Mm-mm.
kahit saan ka lumingon doon, parang alam na alam mo yung apelyido. Minsan nga may mga ano pa yun, statwa.
Oh,
May
talaga?
mga statwa pa ng mga Marcos. Oo, kasi parang doon talaga makikita mo yung ano, yung pamilya nila, yung pinsan, yung kapatid, yung asawa, nasa pwesto. Bawat tarpaulin may Marcos yung pangalan. As
Wow.
in, sobrang lala. If you go
Wow.
there, parang sasabihin nga nila na parang yung front na, uy, sobrang unlad ng Ilocos Norte. Pero when you go to the very cities, sobrang daming mahihirap. As in, saan ka nakakita ng 90 years old lola nagtitinda pa rin sa palengke? So is that the definition of maunlad?
Wow.
If they're
Wow.
not including everyone, di ba?
Mm-mm. So my question was, okay, did you have a recent conversation with your mom
Oh
regarding
yeah.
this coming elections? How did that
Mhm.
happen? Or what happened in that conversation?
I got hurt. So well, she's still for Marcos, but the good thing is she's not voting because she's so that's she's not voting kasi Canadian citizen na siya. So
Ah, I
yeah.
mean,
Canadian citizen na siya.
oh, at least -1 yun sa boto. Pero again, it still has an implication. Kasi,
Yeah,
syempre, may network pa rin yan.
mhm.
Wow.
Pero
Wow.
pero when I see online yung mga kapamilya ng mom ko, they're actually not for him.
Oh, interesting. O, baka pag,
And to say that they're from Ilocos Norte too, so that speaks a lot.
how about your siblings? Are your
My
siblings
sibling,
voting?
yes, may na-influensyahan ko lang din tong isa kasi nung may isang candidate na late na nag-announce, last day of registration na dito sa Canada. So, umabol agad kami sa consulate. Tapos, sabi ko, drive mo naman ako. Tapos, inaya ko na siya mag-register ka na rin kaya. So, ayun. I'm not sure who he's voting for, but I'm hoping. Kasi, parang, ang ginagawa ko dito, may malaki kaming TV sa sala namin. Tapos lagi ako nagpe-play ng videos about this certain candidate. Uy, ang galing niya. No, sabay parinig lang. So that's
Conditioning. Framing 101.
ganun yung ginagawa ko. Parang wala, framing nga. Tapos hopefully, sana, hindi pa nga siya bumaboto eh. So sabi ko, pag ikaw hindi ka bumoto, sayang yung 2 hours nating pila sa consulate. So, ayun. Pero hindi naman siya apologist like me. That, I'm glad to say that.
At least. Okay, thanks, Yana. Colleen, gusto kong malaman, you are a lawyer. And syempre, in the practice of law, facts is really a foundation of it. So how do you influence your network? Do you influence through, let's say, for example, like experiences, or through facts, or both?
Paanong experiences? Well, ako, talaga ako, whenever there's opportunity to say the truth and to lay down the truth, that's what we do. Actually, late ko na rin siya parang na-realize na how important it is to, okay, so I have two like ways to lately na medyo actively like trying to like influence. Even if ganun din, tulad nung iba, wala namang masyadong following, yung friends ko, ito lang din. Pero, online, if there's misinformation, I point it out, even if it may recent akong encounter with like high school teachers na inaway nila ako for calling them out on fake news.
Wow.
I had to do it kasi una sa lahat, ayoko na ng fake news sa feed ko. Kasi it really spreads like wildfire. And kaya yun yung nagiging totoo kasi hindi natin kinokontra. So that's one. So facts talaga. Second, siguro yung gusto ko yung sinabi ni Darren na yung tao sa tao. Kasi yun din yung natutunan ko with working with communities na dati sobrang worried namin nung pandemic na may mga workshops or trainings kami na we had to shift to online means, which is always difficult kasi ang hirap makipag-usap pag naputol yung connection, mahina yung internet, hindi naman din lahat ng communities may access to internet na stable. So, tuwang-tuwa kami nung recently na nagkita-kita uli kami sa isang it's community partner community namin in Manila to just talk about the elections like and ano yung mga kung nasaan na ba tayo ngayon ganyan. So yun ano rin meron din kaming short session on para on spotting fake news or spotting ano 'di ba spotting truth online. So parang yun helpful yung face to face eye to eye na ano no na sit down and yun regardless of nasa legal profession ka man or some other iba man yung work mo, but I think important yung talagang you start with the facts, especially kung may record naman, especially kung may pagbabasihan. So yun, sa legal profession din, there's such a thing as evidence, di ba? If may ebidensya, but hindi yun yung, why don't you refer to the evidence? So yun, parang I think, ano siya talaga, yung experiences naman, kasi may mga nasabi, parang may teacher ako sabi, may mga madami na magagandang nangyari nung panahon ni Marcos. Sabi nung lola ko, sabi nung experience ni ganito, ni ganyan. So, that's an experience, sure. It may also be true. Pero, I remember this really good metaphor by a friend. Sabi niya, pag na-ondoy, nung ondoy, kahit naman hindi ka nasalanta, hindi naman ibig sabihin, hindi nasalanta yung ibang taong hard hit by diba, the typhoon. So, parang they can coexist. But, you cannot, yung mas privileged na hindi kumbaga hindi naging victim to the circumstance, hindi niya pwedeng invalidate yung katotohanan nung nabiktima o na-abuse because of a certain
Wow.
a certain incident.
Oh no, come to think of it, that's a good argument, no? Na say for example, okay, martial law, merong mga madaming nagawa, may madaming nagawa. Okay, if that's true, then by all means, be it maging totoo siya.
Tahimik
Pero
daw,
like,
tahimik, peaceful, tahimik. Yun yung
Oo, ganun. Tapos biglang, on the other side of the evidence section, you see the numbers. Ilan yung mga na-torture, ilan yung mga pinatay, ilang milyones yung binulsa. So parang, okay, both exist. But then, doon na siguro yung, yung, ano tawag dito, so ano dito yung mas papaniwalaan mo? Ano yung mas magwe-weigh sa pagdesisyon mo? Kasi kung magfo-focus ka lang dun sa mga magagandang nangyari, edi, alam mo yon, parang mas lalong hindi nabigyan ng boses yung masasamang nangyari. But then, when you focus on the negative of what happened negative dun sa panahon na yon, you also hindi mo rin nakikita yung magaganda. So parang it's an unending discourse, no? But then siguro tama din na magkaiba kasi yung epekto nun, yung isa as a whole, tapos yung isa only to a specific location. So like my point is, bakit alam mo yun, mas paniwalaan niyo yung nangyari collectively, yung mas nakaapekto sa mas madaming tao kasi I mean, we are a nation, no? And so that leads me to this next part of the conversation where we talk about community. Eto natapos na tayo sa personal level na how we identify a candidate, what qualities, and then how we use our influence personally. Now we talk about the community, how we coexist with the communities that we are part of right now. And so my first question is, in your communities, what are you doing to and since this is a live stream series on honest and clean elections, what are you doing, or what have you done to advocate for people to register to vote, or honest and clean elections, or vote vigilance, or stuff like that? Or do you have projects within your communities or within your organization? Nina, bilang nasa
Ah,
education sector.
bilang nasa education sector, actually the company that I'm working with runs a number of schools in the Philippines. So ngayon, ang ginagawa namin, nagkakaroon kami ng mga voter education series, nagsagawa rin kami ng mock elections, ganyan. Importante rin kasi matandaan natin na bakit nga ba kailangan nating bumoto ng tama ngayong eleksyon? Gusto lang natin ilagay sa posisyon yung tao o yung kandidato na makakasagot nun at makaka-arrest ng learning crisis. Gusto kong i-highlight yon kasi mahalaga na malaman na meron tayong learning crisis sa ngayon. Ano nga ba yung learning crisis? Kasi this is something important. Bago pa man nagkaroon ng pandemic, meron na tayong tinatawag na learning crisis. Mas lalo lang siyang lumala nung nagkaroon ng COVID-19 because of the digital divide nung nagsimula nang magkaroon ng mga online classes sa mga bata. Hindi sila lahat merong access sa kanilang online classes. Importante kasi 4 na milyong kabataan ang at stake kung tayo ay boboto ngayon. Sa recent assessments na ginawa ng PISA, ng TIMSS, ng Southeast Asia Primary Learning Assessment, Metrics or PLM, lahat yon nagpakita na ang baba ng register natin sa student proficiency. So, importante na bigyang halaga din natin yung quality of teacher training, access to education. At saka parang minsan iniisip natin na ang education crisis is on a level of access, quality, governance. Yun lang yun. Hindi kasama sa education crisis ang pag-iisip kung tama ba o wasto yung nutrition ng bata yung nakukuha niya. Kasi it affects learning as well. So parang, kumbaga, ito yung mga gusto nating inject sa bawat voters ed session. Yung boto mo, ang laking impluensya nun, ang laking impact nun. Kaya mahalaga na bumoto ka. And to a certain point, siguro mapalad ako na nagsisilbi ako sa 2 sektor. Una yung education, tapos yung pangalawang sektor naman kasama yung mga manlilikha. If I would recall, in 2020, kasama ang mga kaibigan ko sa Quago, gumawa kami ng isang comics tabloid titled Baka. This is part of our project with Japan Foundation. Gumawa kami ng comics tabloid to battle mis in disinformation. Kasama yung mga iba nating komikero, iba nating mga artist mula sa iba't ibang panig ng Pilipinas at iba't ibang panig ng mundo. Ginawa namin yon because we wanted to highlight, gusto natin ma-highlight ang media literacy, ang technology, ang science sa mga grassroots communities. So parang natutuwa ako kasi dalawang sangay o dalawang sektor yung kinabibilangan ko na pwede ako maka-impluwensya. So one is education and one is fighting this in disinformation. So I hope that that sphere of influence would grow really and would tap on many more sectors and many more partners so we can really grow that community sa edukasyon at sa mga creative people.
Wow. Props to you. Thank you so much for doing what you do in your organization, using your means to do it. Ang ganda nga nung kinabibilangan mo sector, no, yung intersection ng art at ng education. And I feel like yung dalawang sector na yan, ito yung medyo no, kapag edukado ka at kapag isa kang artist, you can't understand life. Alam mo yun? And so, education through these sectors can literally, change lives. So thank you for what you're doing and what you have done for that. Anyone else? Yana, gusto kong malaman yung absentee voting. Kamusta yun? Is there a community in Canada, or is it just the consulate? Kasi dito sa LA may mga independent groups of people. Yung so kung ano yung nangyayari sa Philippines, meron din dito sa LA, sa San Francisco, New York. Pero parang meron bang community that kind of safeguards the voting process, or consulate lang bang gumagawa nun?
Yes, unfortunately. Consulate lang talaga yung nag-handle ng everything dito.
Oh,
So we
okay.
don't have like the same organizations that you have in there. I think it's it's also because many of our immigrants here, parang after a few years, after 3 years, they're not voters anymore.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's the main reason.
Because they get naturalized anyways.
Yeah.
The first, yeah. Wow. Jet dyan, you're in Wisconsin, no?
Yep.
Kamusta ang Filipino community dyan?
Filipino community dito kasi, hindi nyo nga alam kung saan ang Wisconsin nung sinabi ko kung taga saan ako yan. Square Chan, isa siya doon.
Sabi ko,
So,
sorry.
sa ginagawa kong mga paintings ngayon. Well, first, ang ginawa ko kasi, nung engineer intern pa ako sa Plexus Corp, ang ginagawa ko na lang ay sumusuporta ako ng mga artist na sumusuporta sa mga indigenous. Isa dun si Jason Cruz, a fellow advocate siya sa mga Batak tribe ng Palawan. At sa mga magsasaka. Kaya nakakatuwa dito. Nakilala ko yung partner ko ngayon kay Jason kasi isa yun sa mga partner ni Jason para gawin yung or para execute yung project na yun, na magbigay sila ng mga seeds para sa mga tao. And ngayon naman, since ako naman ay bumalik na ulit sa pagpipinta pagkatapos ng 4 na taon na tumigil, ako naman ay gumawa ng series of paintings, and ito ay inspired by my partner. Isa siyang environmentalist and naging missionary siya sa Bicol, taga Bicol siya. Ang pinagmamalaki lagi niya, kababayan niya si Lenny, si VP Lenny. And ngayon meron akong showcase ngayon sa isang Filipino community. Ang tawag doon ay Manila Restaurant, kung saan ako yung nagpinta ng mga batang katutubo. And before ko kasi ipinta ang mga batang katutubo, pinag-aralan ko muna kung ano ang commonalities and ng mga Phil-Ams and Americans, and kinluster ko sila together. Tapos nakikita ko, naawa lagi sila sa mga bata. So, ang ginawa ko with consent, kasi nagpaalam yung partner ko na picturean yung mga katutubo. Pinipinta ko sila. At ngayon naka-showcase siya sa Manila Resto sa downtown Oshkosh dito sa Wisconsin.
Wow. So, how about kamusta yung absentee voting dyan sa Wisconsin?
In terms of
in terms of like just the efficiency, I would say, just the efficiency of it.
Okay naman. Na-receive ko yung ballot ko 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. And dinadala lang namin, wala kami dito sa Wisconsin. Yung Philippine Consulate namin nasa Chicago, 5 hours away. So, bumoto na ako before pa mag-May. Kasi kailangan namin ipadala sa Chicago.
Chicago. Okay. Kasi I'm just trying to think about, kasi syempre when you're in the Philippines and we're talking about the elections, so karamihan sa mga sektor, lahat yan merong, even the private sectors, may mga dinadaan nila sa company social responsibility nila yung bibigyan ng parang paid leave yung employee para lang makaregister to vote. And then last night I was talking to 2 professors. Yung isa sabi niya, sige, dadagdagan ko kayo ng points kasi umabsent yung mga bata para daw makaregister. So parang yun yung ginagawa nila with that. But then looking to the overseas communities, papaano kaya dito na nagagawa yun? Kasi, I mean, here in LA, my work is literally in the same building as the Philippine Consulate. And normally, syempre, dapat may makikita ako doon na, alam mo, yung mga pa-event. Nag-aantay ako ng pa-event nila. Kasi syempre, kung consulate, tapos may election, dapat meron yung mga say for example, workshop or yung mga pa-demo o paano nyo to gagawin. Hindi lang yung ipapadala sa inyo yung ballots nyo and then go figure or manood kayo sa YouTube. I mean, I think that's the bare minimum naman that the overseas Filipino government offices na dapat sana tutukan nila yon kasi I mean alam mo yun, kami yung disconnected talaga eh. Kasi imagine mo, thousands of miles away from the Philippines and then we're talking about literally an action or a practice or an event in the history that would literally magluluklok tayo ng bagong presidente. So sana man lang kahit pa paanong ano tawag doon? Parang effort in kahit alam mo papasa na sa akin yung mga mema na event. Yung para lang alam mo yun, gather the people, let them talk with themselves kasi hindi naman nag-uusap yung mga yan eh. Kasi may mga kanya-kanyang buhay tapos hindered pa ng yung network nila ay nag-expand lalo to different races na lalo hindi sila makakapag-usap. So parang why not do community gatherings or social gatherings? Kasi even yung mga PhilAm dito, yung mga dito na pinanganak, parang yeah, they have organizations that pushes for Filipino identity, finding yung Filipino roots, heritage, may mga Patagalog classes, Hiligaynon, Bisaya, every dialect. But then when it comes to elections in the Philippines, I never hear anything from them. And so I think siguro yun yung kinabibilang community ngayon na sana wala kasi silang ginagawa ngayon na sana magkaroon in the future or coming midterm elections in 2025, 'di ba? Yung election na yun sana man lang magkaroon yung overseas Filipinos ng ganyan na nakakainggit ninya yung ginagawa nyo lalo sa education sector tapos yung prof na kausap ko last night with the voters education. Sana meron ganun dito kasi imagine the information, imagine the community, imagine the strength of even actually just the importance of voting na hindi lang siya okay Pilipino ako boboto ko. Parang alam mo yun, parang task lang sa yun. Whereas you should think of voting as your power to change the future of your generation, of your life. Okay. Anyone?
Simulan mo dyan. Simulan mo. Simulan mo dyan.
Simulan mo
Actually,
na daw.
actually, may meeting kami after this.
Ayun pala eh. No, I mean, this also reminds me so much of yung partner community namin kasi they're actually kaya namin sila na-meet is because nakakilala yung church ministry na kumukop-kop sa mga yung essentially sila yung isa sa mga una nag-document ng mga killings ng drug war nung nagsimula. And ngayong election, sobrang laki ng role nung isa sa mga siya yung tawag namin sa kanya si sister. Siya talaga yung naghihikayat sa mga community members na bumoto. And through her ministry, so yung ministry niya hindi lang siya like religious value based, pero very socio-political din. So I think nung bago pa man kami makapag-start with mag-offer ng voters ed, nag-start na sila mag-voters ed. So kami, yung naging role na lang namin is paano ba natin mapag-uusapan ngayong election yung certain topics na importante sa inyo, example drug war accountability, for example. So maganda na may mga sectors na although hindi talaga sila voters education sector, pero let's say they're in art or they're in education in general or media, production, film, especially storytellers, malakas yung it's very powerful. Pwedeng through the existing communities doon natin ipasok yung mga very relevant na current events, so like voting in the arts industry or voting through prod, 'di ba? Ganun. So parang ako yun, very inspiring yung ganun na hindi mo kailangan din talaga na super ito lang yung ginagawa namin. Kasi it shows yung power din nung yung creativity in terms of pushing and driving yung story na okay, dapat kailangan kong bumoto as a Filipino. So ako Chan, baka push mo yan, push mo dyan sa LA. Like,
Baka
Push
pwede mong
natin.
simulan.
simulan
Oo
mo.
nga.
I think it will be very, baka yung iba rin naghihintay din na merong,
Baka.
'di ba, mag-invite na
Mm-mm.
in their own circles. So,
Mm-mm.
If
Pero,
may
go.
parang may add lang ako kasi most of the Filipinos here kasi mga inampon sila sa Cavite and some from Ilocos. Yung mga kaibigan ko dito mga Filipinos, lumaki sa Pilipinas pero inampon sila mga 5 to 7 years ago. And yun talaga kasi ang pinaka-pinaglalaban nila kung bakit ayaw nila bumoto. Bakit kami boboto kung wala na naman kaming kakilala doon? May relatives sila pero sinasabi lagi nila wala na silang kakilala doon. And I told them well, maybe 20 years from now, baka hindi na kayo tawagin yung Phil-Ams, baka Chinese Ams kasi naging territory na lang ang Pilipinas, di ba? Hindi na siya bansa.
Huwag nating i-manifest yun. I-end ko tong broadcast. Hindi, I mean, I get you. Oo. Wow. Well, come to think
Siguro
of it,
dagdag
no?
ko lang din.
Oo,
Ay, sorry, go ahead.
Hindi, go Ninya.
Well,
Go.
gusto ko lang din idagdag, yun yung importansya talaga ng voters ed sessions, lalo na sa mga panahong ito. Kasi hindi naman tayo taon-taon bumoboto eh. I mean, it takes 5, 6 years for us to vote again. And probably, hindi lahat sa atin matatandaan na ano ba ang basics of voting? Ano ba yung kahit nga yung simpleng ano bang dapat kong dalhin sa araw ng election, 'di ba? Ano ba, may ballpen ba ako dapat? Meron ba akong kodigo dapat? Yung mga ganung bagay.
So, ano
And
nga yung dapat dalhin? Ano
Meron
yung dapat dalhin? Para sa ating mga
Meron.
audience, ano po yung ano yung basics? Pagdating ng May 9, bago kayo bumoto, ito yung mga kailangan yung
Yes.
dalhin.
Unang-una
Pagdating ng
prinsipyo.
tama
Oh
yan.
my God.
Agree.
Totoo.
Tama. Wala kang ibang kailangan. Prinsipyo at ID din.
Byron, take note. I-edit yung art card na gagawin natin.
Lagay mo
Lagyan
prinsipyo
ng
na
Lagay-
yan.
prinsipyo. Okay.
I-add yan.
Okay, kuya, noted po.
No. Uy, pero ang ganda no? Siyempre, kailangan mo ng prinsipyo. Pangalawa,
Hindi,
kailangan
bukod
mo
sa
na...
prinsipyo at presinto. Alam mo dapat kung ano presinto mo.
Kasi
Para di mawala.
maliligaw ka.
Oo.
Di makaboto.
Kasi, I mean, as early as now, available na yung mga links kung saan mo makikita anong presinto ka, active
Yeah.
voter ka ba.
Yes,
May mga
active
may ganyan na. So dapat bago yung
Okay.
May 9, alam mo na yun.
Yeah.
Okay, ito. One funny story. Yung elections ng 2016, I remember I was still in FEU noon. Hindi ko na ine-name drop to. Pag napapanood mo to, i-like mo na lang or i-share mo to. Kung mapanood mo to in the future. Kasi ang ginawa niya, akala niya, kahit saang presinto. So, on the day itself, nag-travel pa siya pa uwi ng Cavite kasi nandun yung presinto niya. Akala niya, sabi niya kasi, so lahat nag-uuwian na ng probinsya, di ba? Lahat nag-uuwian ng probinsya kasi we had trainings noon nung summer. Lahat nag-uuwian ng probinsya. Tapos ang tinanong siya, sabi niya, ganyan-ganyan. Tapos parang ang sabi niya, so hindi nag-process sa amin yun. Yun yung lagi niyang sagot for like 2 months, yun yung sagot niya na, hindi, may malapit naman na presinto. So parang may kasalanan din kami kasi hindi namin na-figure out na hindi niya alam na kailangan alam mo yung presinto kasi when you register, di ba, lalabas yung kung nasan ka, kung saan yung naka-assign na presinto. Tapos on the day of elections, dun ka pupunta kasi nandun yung pangalan mo. So, yun, umuwi siya 2 hours, papunta Cavite para makaboto siya. So yun let's learn from my friend. Alamin natin kung saan yung presinto. At kung magko-commute papunta doon sa presinto na yun, alam mo yun, figure out a way how to do it like hours before or kailangan nasa plano yun. Okay? Ano pa ang kailangan natin dalhin?
Ayan, paki-edit na yung art card, ha?
Oo, kailangan alam mo ang
Dalawang
presinto.
May
Dalawang P.
prinsipyo.
Prinsipyo, presinto,
Payong, kasi mainit.
Tayo. Pag sa Pilipinas,
Wala sa
mainit.
letter
Sobrang init. Oh,
oo
sobrang
nga,
init.
Oo.
payong. Tapos, isa
Mhm.
pang P, pen.
Pen.
4 piece na pala to. Okay, anyway, Ninya, meron ka pa bang i-add?
Yun lang. Basically,
Kina-
that's it. 1 week na lang before the election, so we must
Oo nga.
really like intensify the call for Filipinos to
Oo.
really vote, especially sa mga kabataan.
Okay, wow. Thank you for that. So this leads me to the last part of this conversation. It's the call to action. Dalawa lang yung tanong dito. One question is and I'm gonna ask it now. Anyone can answer. How impactful is the youth's vote? How impactful it is? How do you think this will change the course of alam mo hindi, sige. Ito na lang. Fearless forecast. Of the 57% na part ng youth. Wow, nagsusulat ako. 57%, how many do you think would the turnout be? Do you think that 57% ng youth's vote would vote? I mean, fearless forecast.
Well, I hope so.
Kasi I mean, if that there's a clear winner. I believe so. Fearless forecast. There's a clear winner if that 57% show up. Uy, art card din yun. Magpakita kayo sa eleksyon. Di ba? Magpakita kayo. Huwag kayong absent sa eleksyon.
Please show up.
Oh, please show up. No, please show up. So I think that's my question.
Hashtag I showed up. O, di ba?
Oy,
Yung election.
hashtag I showed
I showed
up.
up.
Tapos nakaganong ka with the indelible ink.
Right.
Ay,
Yeah.
Colleen. Dahil dyan.
Ayan.
Permission to steal that idea.
Go. Sige.
Ay, wag.
Na-steal
Ano
pa
tayo?
nga.
Careful tayo sa mga stealing na yan.
Na-steal
Oo,
pa
ganun.
nga.
Yan lang ang pwedeng steal.
Oo. So ako magsi-steal, kailangan merong paalam, 'di ba? Pwede bang manakaw itong idea na to?
Go. Go for
Pwede
it.
bang
Go for it.
manakaw yung 16 billion?
Yan, hindi.
Hindi pwede yan.
Hindi
pwede.
pwede.
Pakibalik yun agad.
Pakibalik,
Pakibalik agad.
oo. Plus yung dami-daming trillion. Anyway, so sige, I wanna go back to that. I just wanna know, I just wanna hear that again. How impactful is the youth's vote in your perspective?
Well, kagaya ng sinabi ko kanina, no, dun pa lang sa simula ng discussion na to, nakita natin through the course of Philippine history how the youth parang has the power really to move, to have a critical movement in the socio-political landscape, no. So parang ang sinasabi ko lang dito is if we're talking about the impact, malaki. Numbers pa lang would say na malaki na. Pero yun nga, ang significance nito ay malaman kung ano ba talaga yung role ko sa society. Ano yung role ko sa democracy? Ano yung role ko sa araw ng election? If I would go back to one of the books I've read, and I'm continuously reading now because it's very significant. There's this book from Aung San Suu Kyi, who's the democracy icon of Myanmar. There's a speech that was written on the National Day of Burma that says, it is part of our being a citizen to enter the struggle to democracy because we believe we can win. So parang bahagi ako nung youth na hopeful pa rin na mananalo yung boto natin at sa panahong to maririnig kung ano yung boto natin. So that's how impactful it is for me.
Thank you, Nina. Anyone?
Ako, kuya. For me kasi, the voice of the youth is the voice of the future. So, basically, gaya rin sinabi ko kanina na we want, sa pagtapak namin ng industry, kami yung maraming hope sa society. And we wanted a head start. Ayaw namin I don't want to end up ulit na katulad ng dating mga nangyayari na nawawalan kami ng opportunities kapag mali yung binoboto. Lalo na nung ngayon, sa mga nangyari sa pandemic, ang daming nawawalan ng work, ang hirap maghanap ng trabaho. So, meron kaming certain goal, especially sa mga graduating, na ang hinahanap namin is meron kaming pagtutunguhan pag alis namin sa academy. So, a leader that will help us to give us a head start when it comes to our different careers. Yun lang.
Anyone else? How impactful is the youth vote?
Ako, just to go back. Naku, nawala si Darcy.
Umalis siya. Oo.
Oh no. Excited na siyang bumoto. Nauna na pumunta sa presinto. Nako, Darren,
Excited to show up.
Excited to show up.
Ayun na. Nakaboto na.
Nakaboto na si Darren.
Ganun pa nakabilis, no?
The youth vote is impactful in a way that kanina, just going back to the conversations that we had, na sabi natin ang Gen Z millennials mas mabusisi tayo with the truth, mas overthinker tayo, over-researcher tayo, sobrang over tayo down to a TV, to a fault, I mean. So, I think the youth's vote is a vote for truth, and a vote for... There's something about the youth that's so creative and so passionate and so hopeful that kapag nakikita natin yung manifestation ng energy ng kabataan, nabubuhayan tayo. And I think that vote is life-giving to each and every one of us. Kaya mahalaga yon. Bukod sa fact na yes, like 50+% kayang dalhin yung eleksyon ng kabataan. But sobrang lakas nun kasi that's what the youth's vote represents. The truth, the energy, the passion, and just, it's just so life-giving and inspiring. And I think yun yung natin, dun tayo, yun yung pangahawakan natin to move forward. Mm-hmm. So yun.
Jet, Yana, do you have something to add?
Sige, I'll add. I think it's very, yung boto ng kabataan is very impactful. Basing pa lang sa numbers, it's more than half. More than half of the total population of the Philippines are youth. So, and I think that yung mga kabataan, what they have right now, I feel like they are to use it kasi they are tired already of the past experiences, of the past administrations. So hopefully, yung hope na nakakabit sa pagiging pagod natin, I hope that it will turn out to be votes then. Kasi this is our future. Kabataan tayo who will benefit from the things that we choose. So I think it's very impactful, and it will change the trajectory of what the Philippines is right now. It will change the future and I'm sure it will, if we all vote. Mm-hmm. So yes.
Wow. Galing. Jet?
So ayan, kinakausap ko kasi yung partner ko ngayon habang nakikinig siya sa atin ngayon, and
wow,
we
thank you. Shout out. Anong name niya?
Claire Prima.
Claire Prima.
Hi, Claire.
Ayun. Hello.
So, ayun, sinabi nga niya na tinanong ko kung gaano ka impactful kasi sabaw na ako. Hindi kasi 5 a.m. Nag-usap tayo mga 4 a.m. na dito.
Actually, kaya ako tinatanong sa inyo kasi sabaw din ako, hindi ko siya masagot eh.
Wala pa kaming tulog ni Kuya Chan, pero nag-agree ka nga kami lahat na kami ang kaming Gen Z ang pinaka maingay na generasyon, at ang ingay na hindi ganun ka ay hindi gano'n ka-toxic. Siguro naniniwala naman ako sa generation natin na wala tayong negative campaigning and dahil nagbo-bloom tayo sa ibang henerasyon, boomers and millennials, nakikita nila kung sino yung nire-represent natin. Ang ano kasi sinabi din ng partner ko no'n ang kagandahan dito, dati sa previous, elections, lesser evil na lang ang pinipili natin.
Mm-mm.
Elitista laban sa elitista. Pero ngayon, meron na talaga tayong, kandidato na hindi lang evil kundi eto na, lagi niya sinasabi sa'kin, "Wag natin sayangin." Uulitin ko, "Wag natin sasayangin."
Oo.
Ayun.
So just to give you guys my 2 cents, how impactful is the youth's vote? This is literally this will change the course of Philippine history when something or someone, and I hope that whoever this someone is na hindi natin name drop kanina, iisa lang, but if this person, this candidate wins, and the youth vote is a part of that, it's gonna literally impact the next generations of Filipinos wherever. Kasi alam mo yun, hindi lang ang focus niya ay para sa isang sektor. It's a well-rounded, and that's very impressive. A well-rounded approach to government. I don't know kasi hindi ko alam kung dapat ganun ba talaga or dahil accustomed lang tayo in the previous administrations that there's a specific sector or economy that they focus on over the other. But then I wish whoever I'm thinking about, si Pacquiao to. Hindi, joke lang.
Pareho tayo.
Ay, parehas tayo! Oh my gosh!
Sure ka ba?
Oh my gosh. Hindi, joke lang. But kidding aside, it's gonna be very impactful. It will impact different sectors. And my gosh, I can't wait for that. Kinakabahan din ako, pero what we can do now is to have an honest and clean elections. That's literally it. So the reason why we had this live stream series is because, to be honest, we just don't care if who you're voting for. Kung iboboto mo ba to or iboboto mo to, bahala ka na, basta exercise your right to vote. But what we want to do, that's why we wanted to have a live stream on honest and clean elections, is that we want to broadcast to people that in order for your vote to be counted, kailangan maayos yung election. Kailangan fair yung election. Diba? Lahat tayo gusto natin ang boto natin ay makount. So this is the last part of this conversation. The question is, how do you think we can have an honest and clean elections? How do you think? Papaano tayo magkakaroon ng, how can we have an honest and clean elections?
Ako nananawagan ako sa Comelec, no? Kung may nanonood sa live na to.
Wait, itatag natin.
Comelec. Hey Comelec. Hey Comelec. It's your job. Do your job. I mean, that's the call. It's a national. Ilang taon na ba natin ginagawa tong pagboto, di ba? And there's this one office, a constitutionally mandated office to ensure that there's clean, free, open, honest elections. And that's the COMELEC. It's meron tayong duty bawat citizen to be to do our part, but at the same time, pag yung sistema mo hindi maayos at hindi responsible and accountable under their duty, walang magagawa yung diba? Wala tayong magagawa doon. And I think if you see, as a citizen, if you see any irregularity in when you vote, you can always file protests. You can call on like your poll watcher, yung tinatawag na board of hindi, I forget the exact term, but you can voice out your protest, or you can complain against any irregularity during the election day itself. Minsan kasi nahihiya tayong mga Pinoy pagka may nakita tayo, ay hindi okay, hindi, tatahimik na lang ako. Pero you can actually do that as a voter, you know. So yun, two prongs. One, yung responsibility natin as voters, na maging mapagmatsyag, but at the same time we also as citizens, we call on we tag the COMELEC to please do your job and help us, and
Ayun na,
let's help the country, no? Ayun.
tinag ko sila.
Ayan. Patay tayo
Shout
dyan.
out.
Baka tayo dyan. But yeah, it's their job.
Hindi
It's their
naman.
job.
Yeah. It's their job. Nire-remind lang po namin kayo na we want an honest and clean elections.
So
And
we
kayo ang
implore
governing.
them. Ayun. We
Kayo ang
implore them.
governing
Please,
body
please,
Please.
please. So yun.
Anyone? How can we have an
Oh,
honest and clean
ako yan.
election? Sige.
For me, as a future media practitioner, careful din po tayo sa fake news. Actually, it can easily manipulate everyone kapag lalo na maniniwala tayo. And since dinag ni Kuya yung COMELEC, careful din tayo sa vote buying dahil talamak po yan ngayon.
Tama.
Please
Yan.
pansinin nyo, hindi siya pinapansin ngayon at everywhere nangyayari siya, local at yung mga kung ano-anong rally na nagaganap. Ilang.
Hello, pwede ka na Hello?
Nagalit
Yan.
ang COMELEC.
Oh, no. Ano yun? Tinatawag ba tayo ng Ha? That's crazy. Ano yun? Wait, honestly, ano yun? Narinig niyo?
No, narinig ko. Pero nawala na.
Wala na.
Uy, kinabahan
COMELEC.
ako.
COMELEC.
COMELEC, kayo po ba yun?
Sumagot
Kung kayo yun, kung
Hino.
kayo yun, pakigalaw ang baso.
Ginalaw na.
Ginalaw, sila ang naggalaw ng baso. Uy, nashook ako dun. Dahil dyan, may recorded tayo nito. Ano natin. Anyway, gusto ko lang sabihin, Darren, ang galing mo mag-segue, so pwede ka na maging media practitioner. Anyway, Nina, how can we have an honest and clean election?
Kagaya ng hiling ng lahat ng mga nandito sa live, no? To have really like an honest and clean election, kailangan natin maging mapagmatsyag. We know that there are certain governing bodies that will be modulating, that will be facilitating the elections. But most of all, kailangan natin mapagmatsyag. Bilang botante, kailangan alam natin by heart, we are well informed of our decisions. Bago tayo pumunta sa mga presinto natin, dapat by now, kilala na natin kung sino ang iboboto natin. Pwede tayong magdala ng kodigo sa pagpunta, pero huwag tayong tatanggap na kahit ano na in form of bribery. Yon, huwag tayong ganon. But may isa pa akong gustong idagdag. Like after the elections, kung ano yung level ng pagmamatsyag at level ng pagiging matalino natin, dapat after the elections ganun din. Dapat pag nakaupo na yung gusto nating manalo, we would be able to criticize and we would be able to monitor kung lahat ng pangako ba, lahat ng platapormang ibinigay sa atin nung panahong tumatakbo sila. Yun yung nangyayari sa buong term nung kanyang pag-upo. That's parang check and balance din. Kung gaano ka naging matalino na botante, ganun din ka dapat katalino na citizen after the elections.
Okay. Got it. Yana, how do you think we can have an honest and clean election? Akin ba?
Sa'yo, kuya.
Ayun, no, hello? Okay. Ba't meron anyway. Okay. Hello?
Hello.
Rinig niyo ako? Hindi. Rinig
Hindi
niyo
ka
ako?
po.
Okay. Ayan, biglang nawala. Oh my gosh, ano kaya yun? Anyway. Ganito ba namin yung clean election? That's so weird. Hello? Hindi akin yun. Roxanne, naririnig mo ba? Sorry, we're talking to the tech people. Anyway, Jet, how do you think we can have an honest and clean elections?
Um, Clean, and if I may add, safe.
Safe.
Mag-volunteer kayo. Protektahan niyo yung mga moderators ng election kasi it can be very bloody. Kung nangyayari dito sa US, nangyayari din sa Pilipinas, mas malala pa. Ayun.
Okay, si Yana, babalikan natin si Yana. Ayan.
Ayan, I'm back.
Ayan na siya na.
Hindi
Sa'yo ba
ako
yun?
kanina. Siguro, feeling ko, kasi nagtanggal ako ng earphones eh.
Nakakatakot sa promise. Oh my God,
Sorry,
pinag-uusapan natin honest and clean election, tapos biglang may ganun. Parang may history ang Philippines ng wiretapping, di ba? So parang, bakit naman po kami? Hindi. Okay, Yana.
Sorry.
Okay, Yana, what do you think? How can we have an honest and clean election?
Sabi ko nga kanina, dalhin niyo yung prinsipyo. Kasi, kahit ano pang vote buying yung gawin sa inyo, well, technically, yung pinambibili nila ng boto, kung meron man, pera natin yun. And kung tatanggapin natin yun, and they're trying to bribe us, if we have our principles, we write a different name than those who bribed us. Kasi alam na natin, kapag nagbigay sila sa eleksyon, for sure, maniningil yung mga yan pag nasa pwesto na yan.
Actually.
So, how can we have an honest and clean election? Maging mapagmatsyag. And please, Comelec, I call on you.
Tagulit.
Yeah, nagpakita ulit.
Kayong magbibilang nito. And kung may dayaan man, kayo na. It's all on you. We all did our part already.
Yeah. Alam mo, actually, may funny story ako na sinabi mong yung tumatanggap ng pera. Kasi meron ako nabasa, tinatanggap niya. Kasi di ba sabi niya, pera din naman namin to. So parang, that's not how you do it. Kasi di ba babayaran daw siya. Tapos, hindi, pera ng taong bayan yan. Binabalik lang sa amin. Sabi ko, naku po, kailangan po natin ng hindi lang voters education. Education talaga in general. Kasi medyo, na yun. But anyway, wow. So that concludes our conversation on the youth's vote, its influence and impact. Maraming salamat, Colleen, Jet, Nina, Dairen, and Yana for being with us. Thank you from Manila, Wisconsin, and then Toronto, and I'm here in LA. Wow. Grabe. Thank you so much. Before anything else, I'd like to invite everybody. Our next episode would be on Friday, May 6. Same time, 7 to 9 p.m. May 6, we're gonna talk about, it's a live podcast recording, and we're gonna talk about ang pulso ng minorya. So people from the minority groups, the marginalized sectors, and all the different communities overseas. And we're gonna talk about that. And then on May 7, we're gonna talk about politics and campaigning on digital. And then I'm inviting you again on May 8th. That's the night before the elections. We're gonna have a town hall, a mini town hall featuring poll watchers, merong mga kumakandidato, representatives of party lists, and then we also have Mr. Ramon Casiple, former member of the the Institute of Political and Electoral Reform. So nakaka-excite yung mga topics next week. But then, guys, maraming salamat. Natapos natin to before mag 2-hour mark. But thank you sa lahat ng nanood. Thank you, Hiraya Media Team, Hiraya Media Interns, Hiraya Talks, Hiraya Studios, People's HR. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a good night sa mga nasa Manila. And then, happy Saturday sa atin dito sa States and sa North America. Maraming salamat, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Sige. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, andito pa po tayo sa backstage. Nina, Dairen, Joshua, DC, Brianna, Roxanne, maraming salamat. Uy, grabe. Natakot ako doon sa nangyari.